it's sort of how I think. I'm a systems thinker of, okay, I'm leading with healthcare, I'm leading with education, but to do both of those well, we have to be building housing, and that's going to make our transportation issues and our climate issues so much better if we can bring all 5 of those pieces together.
We're rolling.
Rolling on tap people. This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.
This is the Wedge Live podcast. I'm your host, John Edwards. Unexpected series of episodes we're doing with candidates for Minnesota Senate in District 60. Carrie Ziedzik, the senator, passed away a week ago on December 27th. The primary is January 14th. Is that right, Doron?
The primary is January 14th.
And then the general is January 28th.
2 weeks later.
A very compressed schedule. Thank you, Doron Clark, for being here with me. You're one of the many candidates running for this seat.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thanks for putting a spotlight on this. It's unfortunate we all have to be here, but we got to get to work.
First, compliments on your website. It might be the best candidate website, and the fact that you put it up in a matter of days, I think needs to be pointed out. Are you very proud of that website?
I am amazed at that website, and it's really amazed at the friends I have. It's they know what they're doing, and so when I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about this," to somebody, he's like, "I love websites," and I go, "Okay, let's go." And he put it together, and then I got to work on a whole lot of content that needed to get added to it in terms of words.
Do you want to shout out your friend? Who is your friend? Is it Elliot Payne?
It's Jamie Erickson.
Okay. Be cooler if Elliot Payne designed your website. Also, I'm not even talking about the design of the website. I don't care about the design. The content on the website is the hard stuff. So who did that?
So the pictures are largely taken by Elliot Payne, one of my key supporters, but some of them are taken from the running I've done with Mill City Running. So we've had some photos taken over the years and gleaned from just my life. So there's parts of that are just the things I've done in the neighborhood, and some of it is my friend Elliot Payne as well.
I'm not even talking about the pictures. I'm talking about the written stuff.
The written stuff. Well,
yes.
Yeah, the words are mine. So it's I obviously did research where I okay, these are things I'm inspired by, and these are things that people said here. I would think you should look at this, but everything that's on there is mine, and it's sort of how I think. I'm a systems thinker of, okay, I'm leading with healthcare, I'm leading with education, but to do both of those well, we have to be building housing, and that's going to make our transportation issues and our climate issues so much better if we can bring all 5 of those pieces together. So that's just how I think. It's systems and processes all coming together to go, all right, these all make sense as how they help each other and lift each other up.
Okay, I'm sorry for talking about the website for so long here at the beginning.
I love the website. I was running with a friend this morning. He goes, "How did that get up?" And I started going through it, and it's it's pictures, it's the words, it's really the excitement that I have for the community.
Regular people don't understand what a pain in the ass this stuff is, and all the people you need to help you to make a campaign just look normal that everyone else takes for granted. So I appreciate it.
Well, and I don't think my kids recognized it either. The first day that we were working on this, my 8th graders kept sort of peeking around the corner going, "What's going on?" And now she's just all there, right in on it. But the first day she was just, I don't know what.
Has it been the dozens of people in and out of your house? Are you doing that thing?
It's in and out of my house, but that's my normal life, actually. Usually it's teenagers coming in and out of my house. So last night we had a bunch of kids just crashed in the basement. But that's a regular weekend night, and so it's more adults and friends than usual, but in and out is sort of the regular piece of the Clark household.
Okay, real questions now. What does Minneapolis need from the state legislature? Like what are the top things that people in District 60 and Minneapolis as a whole like needs from the legislature at this time when it's so evenly divided and people are maybe a little pessimistic that anything can get done?
Yeah. I think the first thing we need is more funding and more support with our Minneapolis public schools. So there are a lot of gaps where, sure, we had a huge increase in terms of funding, but we know it's not enough. So that's number one. Number two, we may need to make it a whole lot easier to continue to get health care. We know the constant issues with pharmacy benefits, as well as just we need to move towards universal health care. Transportation and climate change, well, we've got these giant roads that cut through Northeast and cut through Southeast that the state owns that make it difficult to move around. Now, it's going to take a while to redo all those. Central, it's on the docket now to be looked at. So in the meantime, we got to be building housing. We've got encampments here in Minneapolis, and we need basically to try everything to move things forward. So what does Minneapolis need? We need stable funding for our schools. We need to make it easier to build housing. And we've got these, especially in ensuring that we have capacity in our shelters. We've got a funding cliff coming with shelters. And then transportation, just moving around, how we can keep it easy to move around in Minneapolis without needing to use your car.
Let's talk about you. Talk about leadership, a time that you saw a problem in your community, like you took action to address it. Give people a sense of what kind of a leadership you have shown.
Yeah, there's big and small. So I used to be chair of Wyndham Park Citizens in Action, and we have at that point, it was the new Minneapolis Diagonal Trail. Well, the Minneapolis Diagonal Trail ran on the east side of Highway 88, and you couldn't get there from Stinson Avenue. And so a few of us got around and said, what if we just did a crosswise crosswalk across Highway 88 and 18th and Stinson? And we wrote this on paper over and over and over, showing it to whoever we could. And finally, I was in front of the right person at the city, and he went, oh, we can do that. And now there is in 2010 or 2011, they added the crosswalk there that makes it easier to cross. At the time in 2011, it was revolutionary. Now it's not the best crossing, but it was an example of, all right, we can by talking and sharing and advocating for the community, here's a simple thing we can do. Second piece, I'm part of, my kid goes to Edison High School. My eldest goes to Edison High School. And it's been clear on how there is not enough funding all around. Well, parents, we get together and we try and do things to help. Well, this year we had Nerdy in to do as he bills himself, your seventh favorite hip hop artist in the Twin Cities came in. We did a fundraiser where we hoped to make $25,000. We made $32,000. And what does that go to? Helping just teachers get kids on field trips and to events. It's those community roots-based things that I've done well. Now I'm also chair. I'm chair of Hamline University's board, and that's a spot where I'm proud to have been part of Hamline University for a long time. And we have been dealing with how do we have funding opportunities, or how do we get students in to be able to be successful and not come out with deep debt. And proud that we basically match U of M in terms of debt of kids coming out. And we're one of two schools in the state that has been recognized as taking kids from the lowest quartile and moving them up into higher income levels. Something I'm proud of.
What do we need for public safety? Like in Minneapolis, what do we need from the legislature there? The murder rate is kind of flattened out at this elevated level above the pre-pandemic lows. That's been in the news recently. What can you do? You're not running to manage the first responders, but it's an urgent problem. What can we do?
We need to have aid and alternatives for public safety and community safety. We need to be all in on. We need to have aid for the alternatives to policing. So we are reducing interactions. So we're reducing the times when we make it easier to de-escalate. So for instance, we may need to make it easier for traffic control and to be not need to be responded to by armed officers. So Minneapolis doesn't have the ability to do that now. We need safety presence on our cultural corridors. We need to be able to have different folks being able to help keep us safe than just the police, off the police unit. So it's not just one solution, it's all the pieces. But in that, we need stable people to be stable in their homes and feel safe and comfortable there. So again, back to the ability to feel safe and not be out on the street, that you are in your house, that we're finding ways to get people off the street. So the number of interactions are lowered as well.
Are we entering a time when there's going to be less money to go around? I know we're entering that kind of time at the city. Like, are times going to be tougher? I feel like we've got a lot of big problems that we maybe should have solved in the last couple of years, and now we're heading into a time when they're going to be more difficult to solve because there's less money to go around. Are you thinking about that? Like,
yeah, we've got a deficit coming up, and it's clear that our legislators made some good moves forward. That were necessary, but it's never done. And we know that we're going to have a small surplus in the next 2 years, and then that we're going to have a deficit after that in about 2.5, 3 years. That doesn't mean the deficit's going to happen. We're going to have to set priorities and be clear on where we're starting first. So for me, a lot of this is, in Minneapolis, we need to up our property tax base. So, all right, keep on with the housing theme that I said. But that's going to also help us on the school front. That's also going to help us on the transportation front in being able to not need to rely as much on the other pieces. But it is setting priorities. And so you're hearing my pieces on what is priority in there. We probably need to look at a new tax tier on the richest. We need to play out what does that look like while making sure that we are making it easier for those at the lowest levels to afford their life. So does that mean lowering the taxes on the people making the least and finding a new tax tier on the top? It might. I think we set the big vision. We may not know precisely how we're going to get there, but we can figure out a few pieces to get us closer to it.
So this intractable homeless encampment issue. So I always struggle with how to ask this question to get like a different response, because on a lot of these questions, everybody's telling me the same thing. And so I'm trying to find like the differences here.
Okay.
But like if somebody living next to an encampment, I don't know if this is as big an issue in Northeast in District 60 as it is in South Minneapolis, but somebody living next to an encampment sees that as like a 911, this has to be addressed in a couple hours kind of emergency. And the city is really struggling with that. Like, the encampment catches fire and the house next door catches fire, and like that's a potential tragedy there. And so, like, what can the legislature do to help Minneapolis address I know there are longer term solutions that we need to be addressing when it comes to housing, but like, how do we make sure the county and the city are addressing this as the emergency it is for people who live in the encampments, for the people who live in these neighborhoods?
Yeah, it's a huge issue, and the encampments are a failure of government policy. There's a small encampment 3 blocks from my house, and we notice it. It's even a bigger issue in Ward 6. Short term, we can't let shelters close. That is, an emergency. This is an emergency, and when we're letting and contemplating letting them close, that exacerbates the problem right now. They can't go. So you're right. Most of the spots on the legislature is a longer term piece. We have to do both. But we can't go backwards with where we are now. Hennepin County needs to continue to step up. The city needs to continue to step up to be able to say, and that's where I think I can play a bully pulpit to go, all right, don't go backwards on this. City, don't go backwards on this, Hennepin County. But we can't stop, we can't close any more homeless shelters because there are unhoused people that need them now.
So you're anticipating a couple of my questions with your website. I was going to ask you about the moratorium on charter schools. You already said yes on your website. So you want to talk about why do we need a moratorium on charter schools?
We don't need any more charter schools. Stopping the opening of new charter schools provides, it's too much competition right now. All of our schools are unstable. So there's about 205 charter schools out there. 9 of them are doing well. One of them happens to be right here in Northeast Minneapolis. The other 195, we need to just go, all right, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to scale up. We need to get you integrated into Minneapolis public schools and other schools, because we are cannibalizing the population that would normally be going to Minneapolis public schools, St. Paul public schools, Robbinsdale, and it's exacerbating the problem. And it's exacerbating the racial lines that have been drawn and just continue to have the disparities that just we need to stop. So just because we have a few that do well, the exception can't be the rule.
So this is another example of everyone I talk to is going to tell me the same thing on fully funding public schools, and it's like impossible for anyone to tell what's different. And maybe there is no difference. Maybe everyone agrees, but why are you different? Answer the real hard question. Why are you different, and you are going to be the one to help us fully fund public schools?
We haven't fully funded them, obviously. And I don't think it's a solution that we're going to get to in the first, this session. But we need to continue to push forward. Why am I different? So I know that we have special education cross subsidy. The state provides 44% of those dollars. And then when a kid in Minneapolis says, oh, I'm going to go to St. Paul, I'm going to go to Robbinsdale, Minneapolis has to send over 100% of those dollars. That's a key first step that we can agree with around the state. And so I want to fully fund. We can't get there immediately, but here's a step and a step. So it is finding those pieces that with a 34-33 majority and the hell that the House is going to be going through with being tied or worse, we've got to find those common pieces. My background, on Tuesday morning, I got a text from a high school classmate who's the new state representative-elect from Kenyon, Minnesota. And he said, good luck, Doron. I at least have that relationship across the aisle already. So there are...
a Republican.
Yes. We're both farm kids from down south, and he decided to stay a farm kid, and I was like, the city is where I need to be, and it is where I need to be.
Okay, housing. This is another one where you anticipated my question. Great job on the website, by the way. You're just answering my questions before I ask them. So legalizing more housing types, zoning reforms, you say you're open to these things statewide. I guess my question is just to talk about why this is important, why we need to do that.
Yeah, so housing is too expensive. People, when I bought several years ago, it was much easier to buy than it is now. So we need to be making it easier to build everywhere so you can live where you want to live, and especially here in Minneapolis, be able to live closer to the wonderful things that we have. Why is it important across the state? Well, we have a concentration of poverty here that we need to make sure it's easy to afford your housing everywhere, no matter where you choose to live. And we need to invest. And in terms of the housing in Minneapolis, we're clearly far behind on affordable housing, and we can't solve it only here. So that's part of why I want to have broader zoning across the state. Is that, we can do. In Minneapolis, it has good leadership on this, but we need to make it easier to just do it statewide because, well, as much as I want everyone to live in Minneapolis, there's a few folks that want to live in Eota, Minnesota. There's a few folks that want to live way up in Zimmerman, and the prices are going up everywhere.
You've mentioned at least 3 places that I've never heard before on this episode.
Well, in college, we played a silly game. I don't know why we did it, but it was called Minnesota Map. And we had to guess what county the town was in that you would name. Mm-hmm. And I also just love when small towns pair their names together for a school, like Ada Borup. Sounds like it could be a great name. Mabel Canton. Right. That could be somebody's name. These are things that just, I love the map piece, and it's now allowed me to throw out names like Ada Borup.
You're doing the State of the Union thing where you throw out the names of random places just to make yourself seem folksy.
I'm sorry.
So wild card question. I talked to people from Our Streets, Minnesota for an episode that went out today about I-94. So how do you feel about the I-94 removal proposal? Like your thoughts on interstate removal generally? I know your district suffers from the presence of some terrible car infrastructure. So do you have any thoughts, your positions on those issues?
Yes, I've got lots of thoughts. I live in a much smaller piece. I live 2 blocks south of Lowry. My kids have not been able to cross Lowry because it's just a moat. And then you go, all right, I got 35W. How can they imagine getting across that as a kid on a bike or a walk? Sure, there's places to go under it. 94, we know what 94 did and why it's there. It wasn't a mistake it went through Rondo. And it needs to be returned to a boulevard. We need to have drains down the middle, have it make it easy to connect. The ability to connect communities is crucial to what I believe and how we can show dignity. Now, if NDOT, again, I reiterated today, can't do that, we're going to, well, all right, we know what we want. We're going to push for it, but if they say no, and I'll keep saying this is the way we got to go, but if we can't connect it that way, let's figure out how we can put in more pedestrian bridges. Let's get it capped in some spots. It should be a boulevard, but if we can't get that full boulevard, we've seen the benefits that have happened in Syracuse from removing their interstate and other places. We know it's the right piece. We got to just keep convincing folks, and if we can't get them there, let's show other ways that we can connect.
Look how efficient we are with this episode. We have to be because it's just a mad dash to the DFL primary, but we're almost done. Final thing here is give me a recommendation. What are you enjoying? You got any new hobbies, TV shows? What do you like that you want to recommend to other people?
So I have been going deep on Minnesota books the last 3 years. I came out and it's like my stack of books had gotten too big, so I'm becoming fairly proficient on Minnesota authors. William Kent Kruger is great. Peter Guy, I'm reading the Ski Jumper right now, and that's where I go down to my library on Central. I pick up my books there. So that's my new hobby. My ongoing hobby is I love to run, and it's how I see and am informed by what goes on in the streets. One practice I had to stop in my running was I used to count how many cars stopped at stop signs. Oh my!
Zero cars stop at stop signs.
It's like 1 in 20 here, and then when I would go run with friends in the suburbs, it'd be about 1 in 40, and it just was so. So don't pick up that hobby. Don't take that hobby. That's a bad hobby. Look at my hobby on reading Minnesota authors.
You know why you shouldn't take up that hobby? Because the next time you see someone complain about bikers not following the law, it will drive you insane. Like, have you never watched anyone drive before in your life?
Never thought of yourself as you drove.
So, okay, not the last question. I've heard people speculating about who the Fry candidate in this race is, and it is no one, as far as I can tell. There's no Jacob Fry candidate. And the reason you're guilty, the reason you have been falsely accused, is the running. We were like, he's a runner. Has to be the Jacob Fry candidate.
It's not me.
Okay. I don't think it's anyone. I can't tell who it is. You're probably not going to hear from them on this podcast because I can't find them. If they're
I don't know, but I can. If you're keeping a checklist, you can put me in the no column.
Okay. Also, it's not Peter Wagenius, even though he knows R.T. Ryback and worked for R.T. Ryback. It's not Peter Wagenius because he also worked for Bessie Hodges and is also like a fine, upstanding person. So don't stop falsely accusing people of being the Jacob Fry candidate, everyone. Okay.
Are you doing that? Are you doing the false accusing?
No. I've seen people doing it, and it's weird. It's the new Red Scare is finding the Jacob Fry candidate.
Oh boy.
Okay, thank you, Doron Clark, running for Senate in District 60.
Visit www.doronforsenate.org, and I need to be clear, DORON, doronforsenate.org. Although I do have DORAN for senate.org as a redirect too.
Oh, well, that's a little interesting tidbit that you had your website. You've snapped up all the misspellings of your name.
Well, my entire life, my grandpa never once spelled my name right. And so I've just accepted that it both can work. So it's what we did.
Okay. This has been the Wedge Live podcast. I'm your host, John Edwards. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Doron Clark. Goodbye, everyone.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.